Welcome, real people, real conversations. This is your host, Lori, speaking. Let's get this conversation started. Okay, so we have Carl on the line today, and he wanted to have a conversation about the right to bear arms. And we had a crazy weekend with a lot of news, so I think we will start with recent current events and what's happening. So let's get started. Hey Carl, how are you?
I'm good, Lori. How you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing good. Okay, so I already mentioned that we were going to start with the right to bear arms, but we're just going to jump right in with the news that the president received over the weekend. So where were you? Were you sitting down watching the news?
I'm trying to remember where we were. I know that I might have been getting ready to go to happy hour after a hard day at work.
Well, that's a good thing.
To be honest with you. Right. So we didn't really know any of the details. We just knew that the report had been turned in and was done, right? And that it was now in the Attorney General's hands at that point. So then we just kind of waited, like everybody else, to get a summary, which came out yesterday during the Duke and University of Central Florida game.
Yeah.
It was a tough choice, but I had to switch over to various news channels to see what they were saying, and it's a great day for the country. Great day for the President of the United States. Great day for those of us that voted for him. Great day for the Constitution. You know, it's just good all around, right? And very pleased.
Oh, yes, definitely. I'm sure you weren't surprised, though.
I'm not. I mean, the strange thing during the last 2+ years is that those of us that are informed, we understood that there was a direct political coup attempt. Even though it wasn't necessarily called that, it was kind of masked as the special investigation. But, we know and have known that the FISA warrants used to issue wiretaps on a citizen of the United States by our best counterintelligence agencies was all founded upon a fake dossier created by Christopher Steele. And of course, that dossier that contains some of the most salacious and outrageous charges you could find has never been verified as far as I'm aware of. In fact, most of it was disputed right out of hand as a joke. But that very document, paid for by Democrats, Leon Panetta, the DNC, and various others that I hope we're going to get to the bottom of, played a role in the creation of that of that dossier. But that dossier then led to the wiretapping of a United States citizen, and that should have never happened. And so we all knew that this collusion argument was created on a false premise, false narrative, and we all knew it was a hoax. And so to sit back for 2+ years and watch these people lie day after day on television, to watch their supporters be unhinged and call our president the most disrespectful types of names and treat him with such disrespect. I mean, this is a sitting president of the United States of America, and to sit and watch the way he was treated, it's sickening to your stomach as an American, right?
Yeah.
And so now that it's over, and while the Democrats don't seem to want to admit that it's over, it was absolutely clear, that the special counsel's office said there was absolutely no collusion, no coordinated effort in with Russia on the election interference, although they mentioned Russia independently certainly tried and did hack into the DNC emails, certainly did try to divide the country with their fake accounts, et cetera, et cetera. None of that really matters.
Right, because that had nothing to do with Trump's campaign, right?
Correct.
Right.
The question was, did Donald Trump, collude with the Russians? Was he a foreign agent put into power? Was he going to be compromised? These are some of the most retardation of thought that people could have, and yet these were the thought processes and still are the thought processes of the leaders of the Democratic Party, those on the Democratic Party running for president, those in Congress, and yet it really is a joke.
It really is.
So,
it's laughable.
It's been laughable, and so it feels good. I don't think the Democrats. I mean, the only thing that has been left up for debate, really, which is what they'll cling to now, is that it specifically said it did not exonerate him and of obstruction of justice. Well, the obstruction of justice, addressed a couple things. So his tweets, look, if you accused me of anything close to what this man was accused of, I can promise you I would be tweeting and probably saying some things I shouldn't say. And I would say them publicly, and I wouldn't care who heard them because I know that I'm innocent.
Well, what obstruction are you talking? Because there was obstruction with firing James Comey, and he was, as far as I know, the Attorney General said that he spoke with Rod Rosenstein, and they feel he's innocent of that too.
He is innocent of that, and so that's what I mean by it was two-pronged, in that the other, in a pure speculation, where they could determine matter-of-factly whether obstruction of justice occurred or did not occur was, and again, we won't know until the full report is released, but apparently did the president's tweets constitute obstruction of justice?
Oh,
right?
My goodness. No, come on, really?
And so, but because there was no criminal intent in the tweets, and because it was just a man defending himself, that really, they took this to the highest levels inside of the special counsel, and then they took that to the attorneys at the Justice Department, and basically they did punt, so they didn't exonerate him. It's just that there's not a precedent for it, and things of that nature. So while that's really today what the Democrats are hanging their hat on, those, at least from what I've seen in the news, some of them still insist regardless. You got to remember, you couldn't impugn the integrity of Mueller throughout the whole process, right? Democrats, how dare Trump speak about the special counsel in this way? He's a Republican, and he's handpicked, and all this other nonsense that, and now the report comes out, and they're throwing him under the bus right away because they didn't get what they wanted.
Right. Who are they saying that he even intimidated or coerced in any way as far as tampering with witnesses?
Yeah,
that he could have obstructed this case, because from where I'm sitting, it was more of Robert Mueller, like whoever he went after. I think he intimidated these people.
Yeah, it's again, this stuff's all going to have to come out. They've cataloged, a bunch of things. I don't know what it does, but one of the report here, one of the quotes from it is, the report identifies no actions that, in our judgment, constitute obstructive conduct had a nexus to a pending or contemplated proceedings, and were done with corrupt intent, each of which, under the department's principles of federal prosecution guiding charging decisions, would need to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. So basically, a reasonable doubt to establish an obstruction of justice offense. So they can't prove anything. They may not like it, and some of the things that he did, but they can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt. That, from what I've heard from legal scholars today and on various social media outlets, is that particular statement should have just been left out, and there should have been, it's either you're going to charge him or you're not.
But who would he have? Who would he have gotten to? Look at General Flynn. If anybody, if they felt that he was putting out tweets and he didn't tell what he should have told, or this man said that he lied, and it came out that Comey felt he didn't even lie and he should have never been charged.
Yeah.
So is that even going to be flipped back? That's just crazy what happened to this. I just would like to see an example of somebody that walked away scot-free or didn't cooperate because of a tweet that he made. Is there an example? Who is it? What witness?
Yeah, I can't think of one, but they may stretch the parameters of what's acceptable, or who knows. I mean, they're absolutely unhinged and unwilling to accept. Although I believe they already knew this, and so I can't tell. Either they're just absolutely insane, or this is all part of a broader strategy to keep their unhinged, kind of socialist base very happy, and giving them something to continue to hang their hat. Because if it were me, and I was a Democrat today, I would, which I'm not, but if I were, I would be happy that the president of my country has been cleared of wrongdoing. I would be very angry at CNN for getting me so ginned up, and MSNBC and CNBC and to an extent CBS and ABC, but much lesser degrees. But for all these people paraded on television day after day, getting me ginned up, thinking that I had something to look forward to in removing the man that I hate with all my guts, President of the United States, Donald Trump, and to find out that I was lied to, that they knew I was being lied to, right? And that they sat on much of this information, I just find that reprehensible. So I think if I'm a Democrat today, I would be happy for my president, I'd be happy for my country, and then I think I'd be a little angry at the networks, and then I would have to really ask myself, based on the candidates that I see, and how they want to absolutely fundamentally alter the country and change it, deconstruct the Constitution, and subvert the rule of law, act without any kind of political discourse that's even acceptable, is that the party I want to be in? And the answer to that question is really no. I mean, there is no moderate middle ground. That they were stumbling yesterday on the various news shows in the morning, trying their best not to say they accepted the Mueller report. Yet they all said that would be the definitive Bible, right? And yesterday they're all saying, I think Donna Brazile was asked whether or not she accepted that Donald Trump was the legitimately elected president of the United States, and she fumbled and couldn't answer the question.
Oh my goodness, this is where it just gets crazy. Let me ask you another question. Because I'm pretty sure most of America, because I know some people don't get involved in politics and they don't pay attention, and I get it, but I feel like what was happening with the president, more people paid attention than not. So when you were watching this, do you think that there were some Democrats that actually did believe this, like they just bought into it?
I do. I think there's if the responses that I get on social media, and I stay off of Twitter, to be honest with you, and because I am a professional, I stay off of things that can get me in trouble. So I have a couple things that I do, but they're locked down so that I can comment on news websites. I can comment on things like that, like a Facebook. But my own personal information, I don't take newcomers. I don't take new friends, and it's a very limited group that can see what I do. Mm-hmm. And so when I post something on an NBC website in response, or CNN website, the trolling and bot responses, that's what I call them, because most of them have no real profiles, but are vile, and they're the first thing they turn to is, but look at all the people that got arrested, and look at all the indictments, and my response is always the same. That's so basically you're happy with 10-plus-year-old offenses from people that that amount to a $25 million IRS investigation, and still no collusion. And so that's really, and they're unhinged by that. They can't take it. So I believe that they paid attention. I believe that they actually bought that line, hook, line, and sinker. And I don't know that reality for them is recoverable, to be frank. I don't, I think if you're a middle of the road, if you're one of the last dinosaurs of the middle of the road Democrats that hasn't gone independent or come over to the Republican Party, I think you're in a vacuum and you're lost.
Well, what about when I say Democrats, a politician? Do you think there's anybody in Congress that might have believed this? And I don't think everybody was involved, because there really was collusion that did happen. Obviously, it was collusion to take the president down. Do you think that everybody in Congress that's a Democrat colluded and was involved in this? Because I question that. I don't want to believe that they all were coerced into this and everybody had a part in it. I want to believe that there are good people there that just believed it and thought that this was true and just bought. And I don't fault them for that, because it could happen. If think about what we were fed every day, like on the news. I just wonder if other Americans even think about that, because I feel that there's some of them that probably really did believe that this was happening and they wanted it to stop and they wanted justice, and that's all they wanted.
So, my thought on that's kind of simple, right? I don't know to the extent at which all of them believed it or not, but I'll speak to that. They hate Donald Trump. They thought and were told, again, falsely, just as in this for the last 2.5 years, for 2 years leading up to the election of Donald Trump, they were told he had no chance, right? They were told Hillary Clinton had this election. Barack Obama had written a 100 to 200 page continuation of leadership document, right? That was supposed to be the mantle for which her to pick up and carry on his horrible legacy and policies. Right. So they were blindsided by the election, is what I'm saying. They were absolutely caught off guard. They just still can't believe to this day. I mean, I was watching the election returns that night. I was up to the fire pit and cold beer till 3 o'clock in the morning, and I knew he was going to win. And I was getting actually kind of upset they weren't announcing it, because I thought they were going to try and steal it again. But the Democrats, on the other hand, refused, just as in, Stacey Abrams in Georgia, Gillum in Florida. They still haven't officially conceded their races. They just said they lost, and then they tried court measurements to try to, do whatever they could to not have lost. And I think that's really the problem. I mean, I hated Barack Obama. I couldn't stand him. Right, but he was president of the United States. He made me sick every time when he went to Cairo, gave the apology speech, or Iran and Cuba on the apology tour. Every time he dissed Israel or didn't see Benjamin Netanyahu, unlike our president did this morning. These things, he was a weak leader, feckless abroad, but the globalists and the socialist Europeans and the communists loved him. Right? Let's face it. You gave the man a teleprompter, and he could speak.
He sounded great. I always said you have to give him that, even when he spoke to the American people, and he would say, and I remember this, he used to say, to all you parents out there that you want to buy your kid that laptop, they're starting college, and I'm going to do that for you. You're going to have that extra money in your pocket and that flat screen TV. He knew what to say. I have to tell you, he was awesome when it came to that public speaking. I thought he was great.
Absolutely, it was fantastic.
I won't take that away from him. That I will not take away from him. But you have to go by what a president does. And I feel like this president is more unlikable. People feel that they catch him off guard constantly in his responses to questions and things maybe, people feel he shouldn't get involved with. He's not going to change. It's who he is. He's Donald Trump. But I go by what a person does.
Right. And we could go down the litany of Barack Obama's failed president, why he'll go down as the second worst president after Jimmy Carter in history. We could relitigate his years, but it always takes a few years for historians to kind of catch up to that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, the man could actually speak, and he could speak very well, and he was entertaining, and then he was smart enough to interject himself into the educational system. During my child's middle school years, which I had to go to the cafeteria because I thought it was a violation of our rights to have the president speaking directly to a group of children at such a young and impressionable age. And you have to remember, all the kids that were 10 years old at the time, they're now 20. Right, all the kids that were 13 years old are now 22. From the Obama presidency. So I didn't want him I didn't want my daughter being indoctrinated. I felt that all of the political correctness, I felt that the insane, policies, this globalism, the overblowing. I've been told, I'm 54 years old, I've been told since I was 25 or 30 that the world was going to end due to climate change. First it was global warming, then we're going to have an ice age. Then it was what's the atmosphere deal? The ozone layer was going to, the ozone layer. You remember that? So, I mean, I've been hearing all this, my entire life. And the fact of the matter is, when I watch the news, during this winter, this will be the third coldest day in recorded history.
Right.
We haven't had this cold of a day since 1879. I'm like, what?
Right.
How can that be? We're all supposed to be underwater.
Right.
Look, and I love clean air and clean water, but anyway, the point is that all of
Hey,
alarmist
Carl,
tactics
I'm going to
fail.
throw something else at you here. Like you
Sure.
said, they go around and they say all this, that all of this is going to happen. What about overpopulating America? They're not worried about that?
Doesn't appear to be, which is really strange. I honestly don't get it. I get that you want the votes. Okay, I understand that. But at what... there's no... If you really just sit back for a minute and become an American, you're not a Republican or a Democrat. You're just a normal American. What do you really think is going to happen when our country fails to exist? We are the last great hope. We are the last place, the last bastion of pure freedom in the world. There's nowhere else to go. And so if we have no borders, we have no laws, what do we all work for, right?
Right.
What do you go to work for? What do you own a piece of property for? If everybody can come here and the government's going to take care of them, and of course that's unsustainable. And so what we're doing is we're setting up the 2 or 3 generations from now for a civil war. And it will probably be a racially motivated civil war, class-motivated civil war. It's hard to tell because it'll be another 100 years out. I say 100 years out. If they disavow the electoral college votes, which the Democrats are trying to do, of course, because they lost the election, as I said, they're stunned. So now they're trying to change the rules.
Right.
And you got 11 states banding together to go with a popular vote. There could be a civil war as soon as next year. But let's say there isn't. Generationally, there will be, because the country will be transformed. There will be, no more place for the rest of the world to go. There's no other safe haven.
Who actually would even pass that? Because some things I don't know. Like, who would even be the person that would say, okay, we're going to go by the popular vote now? How would that even change?
Well, that's, of course, the new push, right? The Electoral College, which I have a whole,
it's a system that they've been doing for forever.
Right. And there's a great thing circulating around the internet right now called, I think it's 316 miles,
Okay.
right? And if you take the counties of population, to summarize, and I can go into the Electoral College on a different day, but it is made so that we're not ruled by Los Angeles County, California, right?
And New York.
And New York. And let's face it, they're both pretty much bankrupt.
Right.
People are fleeing those cities and populations.
Right.
Chicago is the same way. I could go on and on, but the point is that if you take the entire country and look at the electoral map, or just look at the map last year, or in 2016, it was a bloodbath. It was all red, but you had these pockets of blue. And it's like that, even here where I live and where I used to live, it's the same way. You have where people build up, meaning skyscrapers and projects, right, that house large numbers of people, and you have a concentrated tally of votes. It's very simple. The whole entire rest of the state, and oftentimes is governed by these inner city urban areas, maybe 2 or 3 to a state. But if you get rid of the Electoral College, the entire country will be defined
just basically on so many states that carry the most population. That's how it would work.
And it comes down to, I think they said, 11 counties in the entire country.
Oh, wow.
So, and meanwhile, we're a country of I think, we're 7 point some million miles. I can't, I can't remember how big, but they break it down, and it's rather interesting. So Yeah.
I'm just curious to find out where this is going to go. They find out that there is no more indictment. So the Democrats have to be scrambling right now. If they hate this president so much, they have to be thinking of the next plan, because now 2020 is right around the corner. And they're thinking, okay, well, I mean, everything that they put into play, nothing has, like, what did Nancy Pelosi would say? That you throw something and you hope it sticks on the wall and you just throw it out there. And then the news grabs it and then everybody just runs with it, but nothing's been sticking. So I just wonder right now, what are they thinking? Because they keep saying they want to, all of a sudden now they want to lower the age. So a 16-year-old has the right to vote for the president of the United States, which I just find even 18 is young. But now they want to do 16. And then it's all the illegals. Like, they're pondering right now what's next. They want to add more judges on the Supreme Court. Like, anything that doesn't go their way, like, they want to change. They want to change the electoral vote now and go with the popular vote. It's scary. If people are really paying attention, this is scary.
Well, so during each election cycle, and until social media came on and basically destroyed common sense and decorum in the public sphere. You used to be able to get. I've done it. I've gone. And been out there with my fellow Republicans during. I was part of the Tea Party movement, right? Against Obamacare. I was out there with our signs. We saw the bias in the media then, and you have to remember, the iPhone 11 years ago didn't exist, right? And so you would have these election cycles, and then things would sort of simmer down, and everybody took a break. And then 6 months to a year before the next election, everybody got ginned up again and did their thing, and that washed, rinsed, and repeated for generations. And now that never stops with the 24-hour news cycle. And so, they know they're not going to win, but they are all in on it. I think it's just blind stupidity and false data that they have. That tells them this is some sort of a winning strategy. It's actually a loser, but when you do have the media in whatever you want to, cahoots with you,
right?
As we've seen, you can get a lot accomplished, which is why they also were so stunned with the election. But lowering the age to 16 is, I think Beto O'Rourke wrote his fantasy of running over children, and he was a computer hacker, a pot smoker at 16. We all have done things at 16, and we all understand that 16 is it's a dumb thing to do. It makes no sense whatsoever. If anything, they ought to move it to 21.
Right.
So
but do you see the things that keep coming out of their mouths? That's just my point is, let's bring the age down. Like, who is in charge has the final say? Like, they're throwing all this stuff out. They want to lower the age. So think about what I'm saying. They want 16-year-olds to be part of voting for the president of the United States. They want to take away the electoral votes. That's another big thing. They want to add more judges because they want more socialists on the Supreme Court. These are things that they just keep saying over and over and over. So I wonder, where is this going to go?
Well, I think Democrats have to understand, if they didn't learn anything from Harry Reid, be careful what you ask for if you get it, because whatever works for you, when you lose your power, will work for someone else. And of course, that is why we're able to get 2 Supreme Court justices within a year or 2 years on the Supreme Court, right? That's why we no longer need, the 60 votes in the Senate to get things through, because they got frustrated. They had, let's face it, for the first 6 years, I believe it was, of the Obama administration, they wouldn't pass a budget. Everything was a continuing resolution. Why was that? That was done so that they didn't put any members at risk back home in their districts for voting on these outrageous policies they knew they were going to hate and then trying to fund them.
Right.
So where it all goes in the end is like this. I believe one of two things. If that we could be in for a very long. If they were successful, which it's unlikely they're ever going to be successful. The Supreme Court is not a political body, right? That's why they have lifetime appointments.
Right.
That's why the Congress is, and the Senate in particular, supposed to have a certain number of votes. It wasn't always 50.
Right.
And there's a reason. Then you have it required bipartisanship, and so no one can, even though you may not like the person, if you did the research on their legal merits and scholarly abilities to interpret law in the Constitution as it was written, you would vote for them, and that's just gone. And you can thank Democrats for that political discourse. You can thank 8 years of Obama giving the middle finger to the American people. You can thank Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi for 6 years of just absolute destruction, and that's why President Trump won. He won because all of us sat back, and we couldn't wait. And we showed that in before 2016 when we took back the House, and that was all because we understood the dangerous tipping point that they were taking us down. They're going to do it again, and they're going to lose again. Now, as far as if they get the popular vote, let's just say, for argument's sake, and then the economy's doing great. I mean, you have to remember, they assume, just as they do now, they assume that black votes are theirs. They're on the plantation. They're not allowed to leave the plantation. And they assume that every illegal alien that they then give citizenship to is going to then be a vote for a Democrat. And I actually kind of agree with that theory, except standing evidence shows that legal immigration, which I'm for to a degree, as you said, we can't overload the country, but at the same time, legal immigrants, once they participate in the system, and once they've begun to build their American dream, they don't want their tax dollars and they don't want their jobs going to people who didn't do the same thing.
Right.
If that vote ever backfires, and California turns Republican, or any of these other areas, it may take 50 years, but at some point it absolutely could put Democrats out of power for 200 years.
Right. Well, I do find it funny, not even funny, just ironic. You always heard the Democrats, especially when they get out there and they start campaigning, it's all about the black vote and what they can do to help an African American job-wise and whatnot, and how they talk about, they don't say welfare checks or anything like that, but they just talk about like the system that could help them, and they could help them with their rent and food stamps, and we don't want to take this away because we have people that need this. So they want to just keep them down and keep offering all the stuff. But I just think it's so ironic. It's like they left them in the back. They're behind them now. They're on to the next. Now it's all about illegal immigrants and what they could offer them as far as housing and food and school, free school, and their phones probably, whatever.
Well, and black voters ought to beware that they're in danger of, they say, white people will no longer be the predominant race in the United States by 2050. However, black people will not be the second most dominant race either. They're going to fall to third. Well, so how do you think that's going to make them feel? And so it's a shame because Democrats can't win. Much like, Trump tried to unite the country, and he did. He did a fairly good job of putting together a coalition of white collar, blue collar. He won more of the black vote than any other Republican candidate in recent history.
Right.
He had poor, white, Hispanic, Latino, black, old, young. He did. Blue collar, rich, poor, middle class. He had them all. And Democrats can't build that coalition. They need the gay rights advocates to have their group, as part of their coalition. So they'll pander to them. They need people that don't make a certain amount of money to be in another box. And they need the black vote in one box. And everybody has to stay in their boxes in order for the plan to work correctly. And then, come election time, they pander to each of those boxes, hope that the boxes line up and make a square.
And then that's it. And then they're on to the next. And it's business as usual. And all the promises, if people really sit back and think, all the promises that they made, they're never kept.
No. And so I will tell you, during the campaign of this, during 2016, I got up every morning. I campaigned with a Republican gay guy, just because he was the leader of one of our local Republican committees around here. And every day I was out there with him. See, I'm out there with my American flag, my Gadsden flag, my President Trump flag, and he's out there with his Gays for Trump flag and all this other kind of stuff. And he's got a huge following. He's got like 5,000 followers on Twitter, something like that. It's insane.
Well, good for him. Good for him that he's not blindsided, because I have a few friends too. And I hate to call them like, oh, they're gay, but because they'll say the gays aren't for this president. No, there are people that are gay that don't buy into what everybody else is saying. They have a mind of their own. Same thing with black. You see how everybody, it's identity politics. We're putting everybody, and this is what happens. I hate to even do that.
Well, that's where I was kind of heading, right? So I'm out there with him, and we're, doing some overpass stuff, and we're, and you would get, every now and then, probably one out of, this is how we knew, we were a very popular overpass area. Our group got bigger. It started out as just he and I, and then, next thing you know, we had people asking when we were going to go do it, and then more and more people started showing up. It became a pretty big deal, and black folks would drive by and honk and give us the thumbs up, right?
Right.
And they would say, go Trump, and you would never think a black person would be allowed to vote for Donald Trump, based if you were watching the news. And yet we're seeing firsthand that they're clapping and giving us thumbs up and saying, go Trump, and all that kind of stuff. And then you turn on the news, and it's all blacks hate Donald Trump.
Right.
So we knew that we just all had a good feeling about the election. But yeah, it is. It's identity politics, and that's all they know.
Right. It's a shame, but it's like, when you keep hearing this, do you see it's as if like we repeat the same thing? It's almost as if I said this when I started this, that it's as if America, we watch TV every day, you're watching the news, and it's as if we're being brainwashed, and all these little things are put in your head, and then you start like repeating the things that they're saying, and I think it's all for a reason. It's like the power of suggestion.
It is, and that's why you have to, you have to get alternative news sources. And of course, I've seen the trends, in the last 2 years. Make a point and they don't like it. Like me, I do a lot of texting without my glasses on, which is not great. So I misspell a word, and instead of arguing the merit, they're like, spell much. Or it's, or there's an apostrophe after
Oh,
you.
no.
And so I just laugh, because this is what, it's almost, and they all do the same things. So I know, and the stories were written during the election about Soros paying people to do the 1% protest, right? To do the Black Lives Matters protest, to do the, they'll pay you $16 an hour to go protest outside of a Trump rally, these kinds of things. So I know they're still paying them to be in the basements of mom and dad's house while they sip their Starbucks and play on their iPhone 10 and have no real job. They're a barista somewhere. But this is what they do. And they sit around, that's how they'll criticize. And it's like they play by the same playbook all over. It's not going to change. But if you don't have various news sources, if you don't stay informed, and you can't win an argument. So I feel, frankly, and my kids will tell you that I'm right a heck of a lot more than I'm wrong. I'm not going to say I'm always right, because I don't want to have that thrown in my face, but the odds are that if you're going to bring your argument to me, and I'm out in public and I have my Trump hat on, or whatever the topic du jour of the day is, and you want to have a discussion with me, chances are I've read more than you, I know more than you, and I'm going to beat you in whatever lame argument you're going to present me. And can I do it all the time on social media? No, because it's a full-time job defeating the lies and combating the robots.
Well, there's Democrats too that feel the same way. I feel there's perception in everything, and you can feel you're right, because that's how you feel. You feel you're right. You can read something and somebody else can read something, and it's perception, how you read that and how that person read it, and how they're going to now interpret it and how you're going to interpret it. You notice that with certain things, or if you see something happen and you're going over events and how you've seen it and how the next person's seen it, it could be, and it's in your brain, you're saying, did this person just see what I just saw? I mean, just an example, even when the president addressed America, there were people that said he was a dick. First, you started hearing like, oh, wow, everybody thinks he did good. It sounds great. And then, bam, you go to the other side of the panel, and it's like, were they just watching the same president that I was watching? They called him a dictatorship. They compared him to Hitler. It's just crazy. I really believe it's perception with a lot of things, even if the facts are right in front of you. That's just the world that we live in today. And everybody has a right to an opinion, and I agree with that. But everyone sees things differently. So you know what I'm thinking, Carl? Maybe I would love to have you back on, because I do have a friend of mine. He's a Democrat, and he feels that anybody can bring any argument to him. And I think it would make for good conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be great.
Yeah, as long as you might have to chain them because they're so unhinged, they might go a little crazy on you.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. We can handle it. All right, Paul, actually, we went over a little bit on the time, so I'm going to have to say goodbye. But I appreciate it so much that you took the time to have a conversation with me, and that's the whole point of what I'm doing. You are absolutely welcome to come back on anytime. I know you wanted to discuss the right to bear arms. So
I did. So I would like to come back and do that.
Okay, so we can actually just set up another time, and you can come on, and we can just tackle it. But you see how these conversations could go on and on? That's what happens.
I do, and I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'm glad. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome.
From you again.
Okay, and you have a great day.
You too, Laura.
Okay, bye-bye. All right, so that concluded the conversation. So as you can see, we did want to go with the right to bear arms, but it just didn't happen. But I just want to get back to, this is really the whole point of why I started doing this, is just to have conversations, and people have different views, and I'm glad I even thought of that as we were having the conversation with perception and how you see something, or even if you read it, it's what your takeaway is. So I definitely like all different views. I always put my email underneath when I put up my podcast. So if anybody is interested and would like to just come on and have a conversation, you see how long this one went. And we're just having a conversation. All right, so have a great day. And until next time, see you later.